you quite often seem to suggest that you've been kind of walking a lonely road to some extent. That you're always being challenged by people around you about, oh, you're not still banging on about this and banging on about that. But do you have a network around you of like minds?
No, I'm very blessed in the sense that I have a couple of really, really good friends that are incredibly loyal and kind to me and that I respect immensely. Even, actually the majority of them don't lead political lives or have it in the forefront of their daily lives at all. But we share a set of values, and they will always respect those, and they will always have encounters with me that are always based on respect and humanity. So that I have those people. I will say though that it has been a lonely road. It has been tough. It's not fun to be labeled as a white supremacist, far-right racist, all the shit that they say about me in the media. And, feeling like if you meet someone new that they already know stuff about you or they assume things about you, that's not fun. But actually, yeah, no, I have enough people around me that support me. And I thankfully also have my family, which has been just, I think without my parents, I would have never been able to manage this. I guess I would have given up. I have a very strong family unit that has been just life-saving to me.
And to go back to almost to some of where we were at the beginning of this conversation, I am profoundly grateful that I have been on the journey that I have been on for the last couple of years. I can say wholeheartedly that I wouldn't change it, not at all. I feel I have lost touch with, people in my life because of things that I've said and stances that I've taken, and on the one hand, that makes me, I feel sadness about that, but it also feels right.
Yeah.
In many respects, I wish it had happened to me 20, 30 years ago. I wish I had longer now to take advantage of the understanding I have.
And then it's real, the basis that you have, that you're in contact with people on, if you speak really truly your mind, and if you speak about what you believe is the truth, and those people stick around, then what you have with them. And I get to meet wonderful people like yourself because of the stuff that I do now. And yeah, I mean, I have to say though, you do lose people along the way. I feel like every time the new current thing comes, you lose some with COVID, you lose some with Ukraine, you lose some with probably the climate change stuff. Yeah. But for me now, I'm at this point where I think I have a solid little basis of, 5 people in my life that I know I can count on that won't disappear. And that's, to me, is enough, that's enough.
Yeah. It's that I lived in, I suppose, I wasn't consciously, but in hindsight, I see that I was living in fear of being controversial. Yeah. Of saying things that ruffled feathers. Yeah. When you get right down to it, this is me being me, and these are the things that I've always thought.
And of course, we know if you are in our shoes, that you can't attack the establishment without it punching back. That's part of the game. That's going to happen. And I tell people often, because I have the same experience as you, I'm content with what I'm doing. And at some point, the slander and everything loses its power once you stop being afraid of it. Once you stop thinking, oh, I can't say this because they're going to say that I'm radical, or, at some point when you truly believe that there is good and evil in this world, I would much rather be called a radical in the fight against evil than a moderate. And I don't care what people will say about me then. If I have a group of good friends, loyal friends and family around me who know who I am, who love me and who I love, then that's good enough. And I know that I meet actual friends. I meet real friends. And that's what I try to tell other people. Stop being afraid of what they call you and they lose their power.
Yeah. You're optimistic, aren't you? You have a positive outlook. What do you I agree. Do you have a time scale? Do you think well, we're going through a necessary transition, or this had to happen? It's like subcutaneous pus that had to come to the surface and then be cleared and voided.
Yeah, like a purge.
Do you have a sense of how long before we might get to the sunlit uplands?
Ooh, I have those days where, you know, you just go down the rabbit hole and you're like, oh, within a couple of years, it's all over. And I have those visions where the drones are flying outside of your house and they're scanning you with their NASA technology, where they can scan your heartbeat and you're identified with your heartbeat. And then it's like, you go back into your house, ma'am, because you bought meat too much, and you know you only have your CDC or CBDCs on your phone, and then the world becomes very grim. And I wonder, okay, how quickly is that going to happen? The thing is that I don't know how fast it will go. Honestly speaking, there were times during the COVID period where I never thought that we would ever get out of it at all, and yet, you know, for a little bit we are. Doesn't mean though that we should just sit back now, because they just changed the method of attack, and it's another thing that they're using. So if you realize that the agenda is the same, you just have to keep fighting. You have to keep fighting it and calling it out every single time you see it. I do believe, however, that now, financially, economically, that CBDC project, the moment that hits, that's, again, is a really, really hard one to come back from. But it's easier to come back from than something like Neuralink, which Elon I think he was talking about bringing it to the market in 6 months already. So it's being I think it's being looked at by the FDA now.
How can you bring it to market? I thought it killed all the animals it had ever gone into.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, they're now, actually this morning I saw something quickly, I didn't read it yet, where they said that the government of the US is now launching an investigation into it, because obviously they're angry about the other stuff that he's done. So, you know, it's difficult to see what really is going to happen there. But as long as the only ethical discussion that people have is, oh, it's killing monkeys, you know, that we're not doing enough. So the transhumanism part, it depends on, my optimism depends with the day, really. You know, sometimes I'm in the total black pill mindset, and then other days I'm like, no, there is still good in this world. I
have, you know, good days and bad, but I believe that the natural nature will win out. You know, in the same way that, you know, you can bury grass under concrete, but eventually somehow the grass grows back through the concrete.
Yeah.
You know, the light always comes back.
Yeah.
I believe absolutely that, you know, this species of ours that has been here and, you know, and has come close to extinction several times in the last, you know, several million years. You know, we've clung on by our fingertips with none of the understanding that we have now.
That's what I meant with saying, I don't think in the end, this agenda will win, because it can't. You can't play God. Every single, you know, not even in Christianity, but every single myth ever told, or every single story ever told, people who try to play God, who try to change their nature. You know, in a speech of mine, I used the example of Icarus, you know, the Greek myth. You think that you can make wings? You know, you think that you can make yourself into a bird? Well, the wax on your wings is going to melt in the warmth of the sun. And what happens to you? You come crashing down. Why is that story so important? Because it tells us a fundamental truth about who we are. If you, the hubris, you know, if you overestimate your power, if you don't respect the fact that you are not God, then it's going to end up badly, which in this case, for us is a good sign, because that means that nature, God, good, will eventually prevail. But I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't know if we're going to be the ones to still experience that in our lifetime, because it can go wrong, and it can go wrong really, really badly. I
have absolute faith that will prevail. But you've reminded me of something that I'm glad I remembered to ask you. Do you think a lot of what's going on with the transhumanists, with the technocrats, is it just fear of death, and that what they're trying to give themselves is an ersatz techno version of eternal life? Yeah,
I think that at least is what I've always tried to explain it through, that there is, you know, if you don't believe that there is an afterlife and everything is just by chance, you know, then none of it matters. Why not try to just extend your period on this earth and your power on this earth for as long as you possibly could? You know, I think that might be even a kinder explanation than just that people are purely evil and that they want to destroy other people's lives and make themselves into a sort of super being, you know? Yeah.
I think there's what we've lost, amongst other things, is awe. I don't think people are properly, I think that you saw around COVID how terrified people were of the illness. You saw how terrified people are of death. We're not properly in awe of death. We're not properly in, and that means that we're not properly in awe of life.
Life, yes, because we can't exist without the other. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I fundamentally agree with you. And of course, with COVID, public health, climate, essentially the same thing. Why does it work so well on children? The climate agenda, they're all terrified. If you're being told that you'll drown or that everything will be destroyed, and then you're also told that it's the morally right thing to support this. It's the most clever combination of indoctrination that you could possibly think of. And it leads to nothing good.
Yeah. Regimes that are founded upon fear have to be short term. Fear of COVID, fear of disease, the fear of war, threatening us with nuclear war, the fear of the end of the world, climate catastrophe. That is how we're being run at the moment. We're being taught to be afraid of everything, and any regime that bases its power on terrifying the people cannot last.
I agree. But the one thing that I'm more afraid of, because that's true, I think fear is, is a short-term powerful instrument, but not for the long run. Convenience, however, is a long-run instrument. And that's also one that they have figured out really, really well. So even if it's not, maybe the strategy is sort of first incite the fear and then offer convenience and say, you're not just, we can save you from this, but it's also makes your life so much easier. That chip in your brain that can save you from death, also makes your life so much easier, because if you want to play a Spotify song, you just have to think about it, Don't think about the fact that we are also literally in your brain and can also just probably turn you off or make you do certain things. Don't think about that for a second, but isn't it just so convenient if you can just think of something and it happens? You don't need your phone. You don't need anything.
So, Eva, what do we do? I mean, I am very cynical about politics. I know you've been involved in politics in a way that I never have been, but I don't believe the solution lies with the political class.
No.
And so, in those circumstances, how do we affect the change?
Yeah, this is the hardest question that I ask myself every day as well, because that's probably our problem. We can hammer on. We need to install those values back into society, but it's obviously not a quick fix. That's the whole, that's the whole catch here. Of course, installing true morality into people or having them think for themselves is a lengthy process. That's why it's good. Everything that's good takes some time. So I don't know. I mean, the first step, I suppose, is to have people wake up to the things that are wrong, because there are still a lot of people that actually kind of although they have that gut feeling maybe somewhere in their, in the back of their stomach, they do kind of enjoy, watching Netflix. And I'm definitely guilty myself. I'm not perfect. I have days where I do absolutely nothing or just mindlessly watch something. So I don't know. What I would really hope what we could do is keep doing these types of conversations, obviously, and then hopefully people will take away something from it. But, I'll just right back at you.
I think you're absolutely right. I keep on coming back to an idea that in some way I think part of the future has to be analog. And I think what you're talking about, conversations, and the conversations have to take place
in person,
where people are all together. The whole thing about conspiracy theory, conspire comes from, it literally means to breathe together.
Yeah.
Where you're close enough with someone that you're sharing breath. And actually, that thing that's been thrown at so many of us about being conspiracy theorists, I think in there is the germ of how we actually win. It's being close. It's being close together. I think it does involve protest.
To this all up and keep you in your 15-minute city, and you can travel. I agree.
I think the solution ultimately is physical proximity, coming together, big gatherings in real time. I think when people come together, energized and reassured by the presence of others who are like them, there's an incredible potency about being together with people of like mind.
For the future, I mean, that could mean, which I think is plausible, that people will just start to form, communities. That this is obviously something that we want to do now to meet up and for a brief period of time. But I think that is a possible look into the future, that people will start to do that there will. And I've already heard, during COVID, there were a ton of people that were talking about, we should find some land somewhere remote where the infrastructure isn't as good, which, it's just so funny. Or insane that 10 years ago, would you have ever imagined that we would be talking about going to the most remote place where the infrastructure sucks because then you couldn't be tracked by the government?
Yeah.
It's like you could have never imagined it, but now it almost sounds like heaven, doesn't it? You know, it's like, get a farm, be self-sufficient, be on your own. But then again, you know, like I said, that's all for me at this point. Also just talk, because we are doing this over Zoom and we have to make it manageable for ourselves. And I can't go and live on a farm. I don't have the money for that. You know, I'm typically the you own nothing and you'll be unhappy generation. That's me. I don't own anything. I own this computer and this microphone, and that's about it. So
I think it's not about being a Luddite either. You know, it's not about completely turning our backs on. I mean, you know, it's the potential that technology offers. It's the ideas that are made possible by having 8 billion people alive on the planet at the same time. I don't know why we've been taught to think that that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know, the more people who are alive at the same time, frankly, the better, because that's 8 billion potential ideas. You know, that's 8 billion atoms that can combine in whatever way to make new things, new ideas. You know, I've never been afraid of there being 9 billion or 10 billion people. I think we can think our way through all of these things, as long as there's a combination of taking advantage of technology and all that offers, but remembering to come together as communities.
Yeah, people
on the micro as well as on the macro.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we should think about doing something in person.
Eva, I've been so looking forward to this conversation, and it absolutely lived up to my expectations. It's been a real treat to hear you, thinking at length, and thinking on the fly and on the hoof, and to watch you think and to listen to you speak has been just lovely. And I hope we'll be able to do more of the same in the future. But for this morning, for today, Eva, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you. I feel the exact same way. This was just, again, a testimony to how good it feels to talk to people who understand. And I know that you do, and you do incredibly brave work. So thank you.
Eva, right back at you. You're one of the bravest people that I've listened to. Forthright, honest and truthful are 3 words that I would use about you with absolute confidence. So thanks again.
Thank you.